GORMENGHAST. Chapter 31. Sitting at her bedroom window, Irma Prunesquallor awaited the daybreak as though a clandestine meeting of the most hushed and secret kind had been agreed upon between herself and the first morning ray. And suddenly it came. The dawn, a flush of swallow light above a rim of masonry. The day had arrived. The day of the party, or of what she now called her soirée. In spite of her brother's advice, she had passed a very poor night, her speculative excitement breaking through her sleep over and over again. At last she had lit the long green candles on the table by her bed, and frowning at each in turn had begun to polish yet again the 10 long and perfect fingernails, her mouth pursed, her muscles tensed. Then she had slipped on her dressing gown, and drawing a chair to the window, had waited for the sunrise. Below her window, the quadrangle, as yet untouched by the pale light in the east, was spread like a lake of black water. There was no sound, no movement anywhere. Irma sat motionless, bolt upright, her hands clasped in her lap. Her eyes were fixed upon the sunrise. The candle flames in the room behind her stood balanced upon their wicks like yellow leaves upon tiny black stalks. Not a tremor disturbed their perfect lines. And then suddenly a cock crew, a barbarous, an imperious sound. Primal and unashamed, it split the darkness, lifting Irma to her feet as it were on the updraft of its clarion. Her pulses raced. She sprang to the bathroom, and within a few moments the hissing, steaming water had filled the bath, and Irma, standing in an attitude of excruciating coyness, was tossing handfuls of emerald and lilac crystals into the sumptuous depths. Alfred Prunesquallor, his head thrown back across his pillow, was only half asleep. His brows were drawn together, and a strange frown gave to his face an unexpected quality. Had any of his acquaintances seen him lying there, they would have wondered whether, after all, they had the slightest inkling as to his real nature. Was this the gay, irrepressible, and facetious physician? He had passed a restless and unhappy night. Confused dreams had kept him turning on his bed, dreams that from time to time gathered themselves into vivid images of terrible clarity. Struggling for breath and strength, he beat his way through the black moat water to a drowning fuchsia no bigger than a child's doll. But every time he reached her and stretched out his hand, she sank beneath the surface, and there in her place were floating bottles, half filled with coloured poison. And then he would see her again, calling for help, tiny, dark, desperate. And he would flounder after her, his heart hammering, and he would waken. At various moments through the night he could see Steerpike running through the air, his body bent forward, his feet a few inches above the ground but never touching it, and keeping pace with him, and immediately below him, as though it were his shadow, a swarm of rats with their fangs bared ran in a compact body like one thing, veering as he veered, pausing as he paused, most horrible and intent, filling the landscape of his midnight brain. He saw the Countess on a great iron tray far out at sea. The moon shone down like a blue lamp as she fished, with flay as her frozen rod, attenuate and stiff beyond belief. Between the teeth of the petrified mouth he held a strand of the Countess's dark red hair, which shone like a thread of fire in the blue light. Effortlessly she held him aloft, her big hand gripping him about both ankles. His clothes were tight about him, and he appeared mummified, the thin, rigid length of him reaching up stiffly into the stars. With hideous regularity she would pluck at the line and swing aboard another and yet another of her white and sea-drowned cats, and place it tenderly upon the mounting heap of whiteness on the tray. And then he saw Belgrove galloping like a horse on all fours, with Titus on his back. Through the ravine of terrible darkness and up the slopes of pine-covered mountains he galloped, his white mane blowing out behind his head, while Titus, plucking arrow after arrow from an unfailing quiver, let fly at everything in view, until, the image dwindling in the doctor's brain, he lost them in the dire shade of the night. And the dead he saw. Mrs. Slagg clutching at her heart as she pattered along a tightrope, and the tears that coursed down her cheeks and fell to the earth far below sounded like gunshots as they struck the ground. And swelter, for an instant, filled the darkness, so that even in his sleep the doctor retched to see so vile a volume forcing its boneless way, inch by inch, through a keyhole. And Sepulchrave and Sourdust danced together upon a bed, leaping and turning in the air, their hands joined, and over their heads were great crude paper masks, so that over Sourdust's wizened shoulders the flapping face of a painted kitten put out its tongue at the cardboard sunflower, through the great black centre of which the eyes of the 76th Earl of Gormenghast glittered like broken glass. Picture after moving picture all night long, until, as dawn approached, the doctor fell into a dreamless though shallow sleep through which he could hear the dreamland crowing of a cock and the water roaring into Irma's bath.